Brazilian clash in the heart of America. We have Dana White's Contender Series vets looking to duke it out in the strawweight division. Bruna Brasil is making that UFC debut. She happens to be from Brazil. She's going to be taking on D. Gomes in this one. And Matt, the funny thing about this is you might consider both of these fighters strikers. If you look at their gyms, though, for D. Gomes coming out of Piera Vale Tudo, and that's going to be the Jessica Andrade gym, Carol Hossa, a lot of linkage right there with D. Gomes. And when you look at it for Bruna Brasil, I mean, as good as her striking is, and she was a Brazilian and South American kickboxing champion before she made that turn at MMA, she trains out of the Fighting Nerds. And for Brasil, when I looked at her on her way up onto Dana White's Contender Series, and even before that, I mean, you know what? We might as well just throw it on over to a clip from Bruna Brasil when we talked about her on our Contender Series show this past summer. For Bruna Brasil, like Dana White's Contender Series second half of 2022, you could just call it LFA / Dana White's Contender Series Brazil. So many fighters that took advantage of those Brazilian LFA cards this year. She did as well. Her striking really gotten her to the dance.
So crisp.
Takedown defense, not the best, but she likes to go for defensive submissions off of that and then somehow end up back on her feet to strike again. I found with Bruna Brasil, Matt, and we talked about all these different strikers that hold their hands at varying lengths. Kind of reminded me of like a Lyoto Machida or like an old-timey striker. She keeps her hands like, you can't really see it, but now you can. Like right low down by her hips, but out like this. And she's always out there throwing kicks. My comp to Bruna Brasil, somebody that I found with a lot of volume, long, lanky for the division. Somebody like a Marina Rodriguez on Dana White's Contender Series. That was kind of the one that I kept coming back to.
I think Rodriguez might have a little bit more power. We just know a lot more about her, I guess. So maybe Brasil could develop into a talent like that. But this is a clash of styles. Again, these are the fights that keep Mike Goldberg up at night. He loves these. Because if Brazil's going to win, it is going to be a striking affair. She does throw really nice kicks, even though she does remind you of an old boxer from like the 1890s. She can throw in combinations. She has decent power shots. The thing I worry about with Brasil, though, is she is a kick-heavy fighter. Brasil won't immediately just pop back up to her feet. She will try to play around a little bit, work her own submissions, go for a sweep. And if man is just heavy enough on top to be probably one of the better grapplers Brasil's ever fought, then maybe she can just make use of it, win enough rounds, go out there, fight for the submissions. I think this is an interesting fight just because the two fighters are so different.
And I will bring it back to Brasil, man, for one time. If you go to Bruna Brasil's Instagram, she has that video and it's like old, kind of grainy, and I thought, what the hell is this clicking on that? She scored a goal in soccer against the Brazilian women's national team. So feather in your cap. I scored cool. At rugby sevens one time in university and nobody believes me, but if I had video evidence...
Not against the national team, though.
No, it was not. It was...
I was the country known for soccer.
No, I was B team. So I guess not necessarily the trouble that I had with Brazil, but the kind of glaring weaknesses. I mean, the strength of schedule was what it was. I'd say between these two fighters, D. Gomes has probably the stronger strength of schedule. She fought Dudieva over with Invicta.
I wouldn't say either one's...
Somebody that had UFC experience. She had an Invicta type of fight of the night. It was a knock him out, drag him out type of brawl where Gomes got dropped early in that one. Lost the first round, lost the second round, rallied as it went on. But when you do consider it, out of these two, when you look at them stylistically, D. Gomes tends to brawl when she strikes, and Bruna Brasil likes to play around on the outside, really crisp, just fun to watch striking, where she doesn't tend to get hit a lot, even though her hands will kind of glide a little bit low.
They will, and I hate for my prediction of this fight to be just so simple, but D. Gomes is quite small. She is not a big fighter for the weight class whatsoever, and I know we have the stats right here on the screen next to me, how Brasil is the bigger fighter. In my mind's eye, she's like seven times bigger.
But it's wild because for D. Gomes, as a pro, she has experience at bantamweight, flyweight, and strawweight.
Frame does matter, though, and when you're 5'2" as a brawler, unless you do have the power of a Jessica Andrade or a John Lineker, it's really difficult to win all those in-between moments in an MMA fight, and the fact that Brasil is that kind of a striker anyways, like, she could go in there and brawl and still have a massive advantage just by the fact that she is so much bigger. Now she has the skills, or not even now, just she is someone who has the skill set to fight off the back foot, can fight moving forward, and I'm not necessarily sure if grappling is going to play a huge part for either one of these. I could see D. Gomes going for a lot of clinches in this fight just to try to slow the pace down. I heard Juan Soto talk about this. Juan Soto hates the new pitch clock because he's like, sometimes, you're playing at the game's pace and you want the game to be played at your pace. So So for D, I could see her going for a lot of clinches to maybe get the fight down to her pace. If she is starting to eat punches from the outside, I just think when you boil down to what their styles are, Gomes is a fighter who is going to walk forward a lot, and she does eat straight shots, and Brasil can do both those things very well. I agree with you, neither fighter really wowed me with their strength of schedule on the way up, although yes, Gomes fought in the much more recognizable organizations. I just think for Brasil, the fact that her movement is what it is going to give Gomes a lot of trouble. So I guess I'll just throw it back to you. What do you have to go against what I said?
Well, when you look at it for D. Gomes, again, I mentioned at least one of the fights was that Dudieva fight, which was a win, and Dudieva had a win in the UFC. She was 1-2, but the 2 losses, very good fighters. The 1 win, not the greatest. But when you look at it for Bruna Brasil, 2 losses on her record. Craig, who are they against? Jessica Del Boni, who was recently the Invicta Atomweight champ. She just lost the belt to Gillian DeCourcy. And the other loss, Ariane Carnelossi, and that was very, very early on in Brasil's career. Again, she's continued to get better, and why do I mention their gyms in this fight? Well, for Gomes, you know PRVT. There's not a lot of fighters other than just Hossa and Jessica Andrade, but for Brasil out of Fighting Nerds, I mean, hey, who was in the crowd watching the fight for Bruna Brasil? You know him for his neck tattoo, his glasses. Who am I talking about? I mean, middleweight zone. Matt, come on, give me a hand.
I was thinking of a middleweight zone with a neck tattoo and glasses?
Yeah.
I'm really having a hard time with this.
Come on.
I can only think like Cody Garbrandt with neck tattoos right now. I can't think of any fighters with neck tattoos.
You can't think of anybody. I mean, a guy that
How long is this bit going to be,
who fought Gaji Omargadzhiev. Caio Borralho. Caio Borralho, a great guy to have in your camp. So for Brasil, she's able to round things out. And on her fight that she had on Dana White's Contender Series against Myron McMahon, who was a very, very small strawweight. In that one, man struggled for the takedowns, and from jump, Brasil was hitting that teep to the body. She crumpled man at one point. I don't know if it was considered a knockdown up against the cage, but that continued to bring the hands down, landed that head kick, and in Dana White's words, the best female knockout in series history.
It was very nice
that she did have. So that was definitely really good. But if you do look at it, Matt, we consider the odds in this one. Brasil, the slight favorite. D. Gomes is the underdog. You have a look at the Topology votes. Surprised us there to you. I'm going to say over under 70% Bruna Brasil because of how D. Gomes looked on short notice against Loma Lookman.
I think they'll be over.
Think they're going to be over? Way over. 965 total votes, 91% Brasil, 80% by decision. For D. Gomes, the 9%, a lot going by decision. So when you look at this, I mean, Brasil is heavily favored. The fans heavily have her to win in this matchup. Do you think she's going to be able to kind of circle away and get away from that power of somebody like Gomes?
I do. If Gomes had the power of an Andrade, then yes, I do think her style would be a lot better and she'd be able to work her way up the rankings quite fast. I just worry, there's a lot of fighters who have good boxing and they're very aggressive in like the women's strawweight and flyweight division, but until they sort of add that next level to their game, we do see a lot of them struggle before they get to the rankings. Think of someone like Macy Barber had all the hype in the world behind her, and she had a lot of heavy hands and good forward pressure, but even she has had to add a lot of other components to her game to actually find success in the top 15. So I hate to be one-sided with a lot of this prediction. I just think stylistically, the fact that Brasil is a fighter who is so comfortable off the back foot, I think it's going to pose Gomes a lot of issues.
And I mean, for Gomes, she beat Dudieva going into that third round, 2 2018s and 1 2017. She got dropped in the second round, and then in the third round, Dudieva was kind of getting tired. Gomes was able to pull away. And Gomes, what I do like out of her is I've kind of seen that cardio stretch in some of these fights. She doesn't give up. She continues to press forward. The knees were the difference maker. That's how she finished Dudieva. She beats Rayani Amanda, who's now Rayani Dos Santos, and she's kind of gone on a run since she lost to D. Gomes. But even in that fight, little herky-jerky. I do like that pure striking out of Bruna Brasil. So in this matchup, both of us going with Bruna Brasil to pick up the win. A big-time fight and a big-time strawweight division. But in the main event coming up this weekend, Max Holloway taking on almighty Arnold Allen. You're not going to want to miss it. Keep it locked in with Fight Night Picks. We always say, let's get into it.